Officials in Houston are looking for the public's help in identifying a diner patron they say shot and killed a would-be armed robber late last week after the suspect attempted to shake down customers for their belongings. According to surveillance footage, the unknown bystander shot the robber 5 times before apparently collecting other customers' stolen belongings from the man's body and returning them. He then fled the scene.
A KHOU legal analyst told the network that law enforcement likely is trying to find out whether the bystander was in fear for his life or the lives of the people around him, that is key to his case for self-defense. Robby, is that actually key to his case for self-defense if the other guy was wielding a gun?
Yes, that apparently matters. So we played the first part of that clip. The rest is very graphic, so I don't think we're going to play it. You can, find it online if you're curious. But what happens is, so the assailant has a gun. He has a gun. He's pointed it at people. He's collecting wallets. It's the customer in the left side of the screen who's kind of got a bald head, a white guy on that left booth. As soon as the robber walks past him, that guy gets up and just shoots him a bunch of times. I end up hearing a total of 9 shots, maybe only 5 of them hit him. So I think, my view is that it is self-defense. I mean, the guy was robbing the place. He had a gun. You don't know what's going to happen. I would argue at least 8 of the shots that I hear look like self-defense to me. I think the only potential problem for this guy, the self-defense guy, so he shoots him a bunch of times. The robber collapses, is down, is not moving. I might be dead at that point. It's clearly is out. He picks up the gun and then he shoots him again in what looks like the head. So I think that final shot could potentially get the guy in trouble. A jury might feel different. They might say that the whole thing is justified given what was going on. But probably that's the part of it people will struggle with because he'd already taken the gun now, he could argue he doesn't know how many guns the guy has. Maybe he saw him twitch or saw him move. Obviously, it's a stressful situation. Can you imagine, shooting an armed robber? And, I think we can all understand not reacting perfectly in that situation. But you're not supposed to take that additional kill shot after you've disarmed the person. What's your takeaway?
I think, somebody could say, look, why did he have to shoot him so many times? Once you shoot somebody, once you defend yourself in an aggressive way, you have no way of knowing how they are going to respond to that, right? Mm-hmm. You should assume they're going to respond to that with as much force as they can muster. So I think you're right. He could have had another gun. He could have had a knife. Once you are a person who is aiming a gun at other people, especially defenseless people, you've sort of forfeited your right, to not be met with that same force.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, I know, I watched the whole video. He does take another shot after he disarmed him. To me, that looked like instinct. I mean, this person is clearly somebody who's been trained, mm-hmm. right, for situations like this, it seems to me. And at that point, it seemed to me like instinct took over. I find it really hard to, on the one hand, yes, I could see the argument that was no longer self-defense because he had taken away the gun and the guy was clearly down. On the other hand, what if he had another gun? And also, is that really a message that we want to send? Of course, there's a legal question, but aside from that, this man is a hero to me. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if the person was only going to rob these people. He waved a gun in their faces, and this man stood up for them. And I think for a lot of Americans, you see that and you feel like there's something very heroic about that, and very grateful that person was there on the scene. And if you were, God forbid, one of those patrons, you would want somebody to be there, and you would want him furthermore to be protected by the law for what he did. Mm-hmm.
Right, and maybe the police want to talk to him and ask, well, did you see him move again, or thought you see him moving or something? And then they'll say, okay, case closed. That's the end of the investigation. Like you, I don't want to see someone punished for defending, people. Like, who knows what that guy was going to do after he robbed them? He could have gotten into a shootout later. harmed bystanders, been on a chase. Like, who knows what was going to happen? He had already, I agree with, like, he had forfeited his right. You don't have to wait for the robber to start shooting before you're allowed to shoot. Like, it would be ridiculous to have a societal kind of rule that you have to wait till you're being shot to defend yourself, like when you're being robbed. Like, there's no right for someone to rob you. It's the contrary. They do not get to rob you. You can defend yourself. Right. If I was on a jury, I'd probably acquit the guy. Obviously, I want to know a little bit more about the circumstances. Without that, I think we want to, be more permissive of self-defense. And we've seen cases. Remember that New York case, right? The which you talked about a lot. Yes, where the bodega cashier guy, maybe it was the owner, the guy working there, and he defended himself and was initially charged, and then those charges were dropped partly, I think, because of the kind of public pressure of people saying, "Oh this person is the victim. He defended himself. How dare you? You charge the person." So we have a real, actual contempt for self-defense coming from some people in the kind of prosecutor setting that is very bad, and I would not want to see that replicated here.
Yeah, there's a lot of. They'll never prosecute the criminals, but if you stand up to them, suddenly you find yourself like Jose Alba on Rikers Island. Again, Alba's someone who seemed to clearly know what he was doing, right? Mm-hmm. Very effectively, while being stabbed by the guy's girlfriend, managed to neutralize the threat to his life. Seemed very clear that he was, feeling threatened for his life. So, I think, we ran a piece by Jeff Charles, friend of the show, recently at Newsweek, and he argued that gun control laws are actually racist because they prevent Black people from having the means of defending themselves against criminals. And I think that there's a lot of merit to that argument. Yeah,
I think we want criminals to think twice about whether, if they rob a store or a restaurant, that there might be someone who's armed and it might cost them everything to do that, and maybe they'll think twice about engaging in casual robbery. I think most of us would say that would be a good thing if that was a concern more people about to commit crimes would have before they would commit crimes like robbery, like assault, etc.
Yes, and in fact, we know criminals frequently say that if they know that there's the presence of a gun at a place, that is very much a deterrent for committing a crime there. And Jeff had a statistic in his piece where he said that over 160,000 Americans save their own lives by being armed a year. That's I forget where the statistic is from. It's a national statistic from the government. So.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on this story, see if anything comes or if he's charged with anything, and we'll have more Rising right after this.